What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news, not just once, but sometimes twice, and with a touch of what, Terence?
A touch of humble. We made mistakes and we're coming to correct it right now.
Hey, why mistakes? No lah, don't.
Yeah.
Come on, Terence.
Misconceptions. Some say fake news.
With limited info, admittedly, with limited info at that time, which we will get to. But in the meantime, this is the middle of the week episode. How is the one day been between the last time we recorded the podcast and now, man, Terence?
It was booked. I mean, it was we got to go to the Google office as guests for the anniversary celebrations.
Yeah.
And virtually managed to rub shoulders with Lawrence Wong. We were
virtually, yeah, correct.
Yeah, we were basically, like pushed to another room to watch a live stream of Lawrence Wong giving a speech in the main Google building, lah.
Yeah.
So I appreciated breathing in similar air, the same air within the same vicinity as Lawrence Wong, but not being able to see him, lah. Yeah.
Saw him virtually. If you're following our Insta stories, you would have got a glimpse of the event. We met some good friends there as well. Good collaborators we have worked with in the past. I think the photos and Insta stories are still up, so you can go check it out. And I mean, there were a bunch of news articles also about some of the announcements that Google made. It was an interesting event. Interesting event.
Yeah, I mean, we as you know, we started on YouTube. We've worked with Google on various things, and YouTube has been kind to us. That's why I think it was also nice for us to be able to go and sort of celebrate their milestone with them. Yeah.
15 years in Singapore, man. 15 years.
15 years, man.
Actually, we went to the first ever YouTube office, no? The one that was in
when it was
tall building in.
No, it was then Facebook took over that building, remember?
Correct.
Then subsequently Facebook moved out, I think. Yeah, but initially it was the Google office, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like one floor or two floors.
Yeah.
And then now they've got like 3 buildings. So I guess the point there is that we've been, we are old.
Yeah, and that as Google keeps growing, so does this podcast. So does our podcast.
We went from one podcast a week to 2 podcasts a week to 3 podcasts a week.
3.
Just like Google.
Yeah,
just
1
like
building,
Google.
2 buildings, 3 buildings. I'm glad we're growing at the same pace.
Exactly, the same pace.
Yes.
But yeah, cool, man. All right.
But that does lead us to the plug, the plug that we wanted to do as well. I think because, like you mentioned, because of circumstances over the weekend and the last couple of days, a lot of news has been about one particular topic. But also we want to just shout out, like maybe you don't want to keep hearing about 377A and everything. There's actually a podcast that we released over the weekend that you might find interesting. And what's that?
It is not anchored on any particular news or news cycle or current affair. It is just a very heartwarming story of our guest, Lavania, who is a mother of 3. And since last year, she's been dealing with the diagnosis of a 6-year-old daughter with cancer. So it sounds like it's going to be dark and sad. But just hearing her story and how they're dealing with it is pretty damn inspiring, man. I guess if you've been reading all the news, reading all the current affairs, listening to podcasts, and you just want a break, maybe after this you can just go check that out, man.
And she said something very controversial about Singapore versus Malaysia food.
Oh yeah. It was a mic drop moment, man. Mic drop moment.
If it was picked up by news outlets, it might be bigger news than.
Habis.
Yeah, it's almost like Nancy Pelosi visiting Taiwan, that kind of level of.
Terence, let's not get carried away. Okay, Terence.
Yes, but let's not get carried away from the main issue at hand.
Yeah, wait. The link up to that podcast is in the show notes. Yeah, the link to that podcast is in the show notes. Yes. Okay, Terence, carry on. Carrying away.
Let's not get let's get to the issue at hand, which still is on everyone's lips and everyone's minds, which is the bombshell announcement of the repeal of 377A in Singapore. I mean, admittedly, when we record our podcast, it was literally like Monday morning, at
10:30 a.m.
Yeah, the morning after. So you're still like groggy, getting up hungover, still like assessing everything. But now a lot more responses, a lot more clarifications have rolled in. And I think we felt like it was a good time to like revisit everything with a little more clarity on what's going on now, right?
Yeah, because on Monday morning when we did the podcast, the main research we had was PM Lee's NDR, the National Day
Mm,
Rally, as well as
mm.
the bunch of more factual or like the articles that had been written thus far.
Yeah, can I just before you carry on, can I just clarify something?
Yeah.
Is it me? Is it just me, or are they trying to make NDR like a thing as an acronym? Because I don't remember before saying anyone calling the National Day Rally NDR 2021,
Yeah,
2022.
I don't recall either.
Yeah, so now it's a new thing now, right? Like probably the comms team or what, they decided, oh, now we're going to like NDR 2020, whatever.
But NDR, doesn't it stand for something else? NDR, NR.
You think it LDR, near long distance relationship and near distance relationship.
No, there's something
like
that's
like
written.
when a Singaporean, when a guy lives in Pai Lewa and a girl lives in Jurong, that's an
No.
NDR.
No, that's a LDR.
No, L is overseas lah, you know, but in Singapore's context, like
Also
from
near
one end to
distance.
the other, near distance, but it's still a distanced relationship lah.
No, there's NB, which is written at the end of emails or something. NB, is it Nota Bene or something? Is it NB? You know NB?
Oh shit, your age is starting to show. I have no clue what you're talking about.
NB acronym means Nota Bene, which means like mark well, which means
It has nothing to do with NDR. That's like 33% more letters in the acronym, you know. 33% more letters. Oh no, wait, 50% more, what am I saying? Yeah.
No, I'm telling you, NDR, there's some other acronym that I cannot remember.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, but yeah.
But I mean, I'm just calling out that everyone's trying to make it a thing. The media, the government themselves, NDR, yeah. But
actually, that's true.
Yeah.
Even I just used it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, we have NDP. Now NDR is a thing as well. So there's going to be a lot of ND, some things that we need to remember going forward now.
Yeah, cool. Maybe you should ask yourself also if you're listening, have you been using NDR?
Yeah.
That is the best question to start your Wednesday or Thursday or Friday with.
Correct. Okay. Yeah,
okay,
sorry,
cool,
carry on.
What the fuck was I saying? What was I saying?
You're saying that on Monday, we basically only had the NDR, National Day Rally, as our source of information as to what was happening, right?
Oh, yeah, correct. So there was, since then, there have been interviews with the Minister of Finance and soon-to-be PM Lawrence Wong, the Edwin Tong, as well as the man himself, Shanmugam, to clarify questions or sentiments they have been seeing online. And there was one interview with Shanmugam by some ST Straits Times correspondents.
Yep.
And on CNA, there was an interview with Edwin Tong and Lawrence Wong at the same time. So
right.
those interviews are on YouTube. The one with Lawrence Wong and Edwin Tong is about 18 minutes. The one with Shanmugam is, I think, about 30 minutes. Half an hour, right? Yeah. But if you watch in double speed, yeah. So,
but I mean, why would you encourage people to watch those? If anything,
I think they give more context about why the government ended up doing what they did. They clarify certain questions that even I had. Like when we recorded a podcast on Monday, looking back, there were things that we kind of concluded or alluded to, which now there's more clarity on. So we figured, there's been so much talk. There have been statements put out by the religious organizations, the non-profit activist groups. So we figured, maybe it's time for an update, man.
Yeah, and I also think like they make the clarifications on what the constitutional changes will be.
Yeah.
But actually, the when you listen to the full interviews, you get little nuggets of how they personally feel about the situation. Especially with Shanmugam, as well as Lawrence Wong as well. So it tells you a little bit about what I mean. Obviously, they're saying this the main message that the everyone is supposed to say, but they're also revealing things about themselves and their own personal views that I think are quite interesting.
You psychoanalyze them.
I mean, that's the point of watching the interview, you see, because you can read it in the newspaper, you can read the transcript, but you don't see like how it was delivered or the expressions on the face and the general mood when he's talking about something like that. So I think it's actually pretty interesting for anyone who's interested in this issue to just watch through the interviews. Even double speed is fine, but you might be surprised, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe I'll just give a brief overview of what they cover before we dive deep and share our own thoughts, lah. So
Yeah.
yeah, for Lawrence Wong and Edwin Tong, they gave some context. Even Shanmugam, lah. So what I want to talk about is the things that they all covered. First of all, why is it risky for 377A to be ruled unconstitutional, lah? They clarified, why the move was made to protect the definition of marriage in Parliament. No, fuck! I gotta get this clear.
Okay. Everyone, hold on to your seats. He's embarking. This is like the part where Tom Cruise is about to leave for his mission already.
No, so one thing that became clear to me from watching those and even hearing from friends and who were talking about it is that I think my impression, or maybe what we alluded to on the previous podcast, was that the definition of marriage will be enshrined in the Constitution. But the reality is, it is not the definition of marriage. It is just putting into the Constitution that Parliament will be the one to decide the definition of marriage.
And it cannot be challenged in court, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So all I mean, what's that saying is that it can still be changed in future, but Parliament will be the one to decide, lah. And because Parliament will be the one to decide, it depends on the ministers of Parliament who form the Parliament, or the members of Parliament. Members of Parliament. So they all clarified that. They gave context of why 377A cannot be enshrined in the Constitution, nor can the definition of marriage being enshrined in the Constitution. They talked about their approach to thinking about going down this path as opposed to going to either extreme, which we can get into. And they just gave a lot more backstory and context, lah. So it did help, but it also led to some other questions for me, lah. But what was your initial thoughts from watching those interviews?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add on to what you say also is I think Shanmugam really went into the weeds. He basically referenced the last constitutional challenge to 377A, and he talked about how the courts basically, there were 3 articles in the Constitution that were grounds for challenging 377A. And the idea is that the Constitution is this it's a document that
the law of the land.
It states out what the law of the land is. So and in particular is one Article 12 that is about the Equal Protection Act, I think. Basically that equality. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm paraphrasing slightly, and I could be inaccurate, but it's about that everyone should be equal under the eyes of the law and everything, lah. So his point was that the courts basically dismissed challenges to other articles, specific Article 9, Article 14. But for Article 12, which was about equality, can I just pull it up? Because I think it's important just to get it accurate now.
Yeah, the Article 12 of the Constitution includes a provision that all persons are equal before the law and entitled to the equal protection of the law.
Yes, equal protection of the law. So equal protection of the law. So that means it guarantees all persons equality before the law and equal protection of the law. So when 377A was challenged in court, it was basically saying that gay sex between 2 men is a private matter. Why is that criminalized? So so they're not being equally protected by the law, compared to other people, right? And apparently the result was that the judges essentially ruled that it was not for them to judge at this point of time, and I think Shanmugam's point was that it means that they can't judge on it now, but they can judge on it in the future, and they will judge on it in the future, right?
Yeah.
But then that's why he's basically building the narrative that it's very dangerous to let this contentious social political issue be decided by the courts rather than the responsibility should be taken by Parliament to decide it,
Yeah, and I mean, from what I understand, the risk of it being challenged in future in court is that, let's say the court does rule that 377A goes against Article 12, and is therefore unconstitutional. It could make the judgment, and then after that, a lot of the policies that are based on current laws and current constitutional laws would be impacted, lah. So
So I think what you mean is like marriage, lah, right? Specifically,
yeah, marriage, housing, marriage, and
later
housing.
someone, I mean, let's say what they're saying is that let's say a gay couple then challenges under Article 12 of the Constitution, challenges that why can marriage only be between a man and a woman? It can also be between two consenting adults, right? Two consenting gay adults. And then subsequently, because of that, it will affect housing policies, education policies, and schooling policies, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the danger, so to speak, is when if 377A is struck down by the courts.
And I would imagine that it doesn't even need to be a direct claim that 377 like why is gay marriage not allowed. But I can imagine that if there is enough evidence to prove that this gay couple has been discriminated against or does not get the equal treatment from the law, it goes against the constitution, right?
Yeah.
So that could have the ripple effects, So I mean, essentially, what I got from the interview is that the government. I have some drilling by a neighbor in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Is it loud?
I don't hear anything.
Maybe that's the government just like, you fucking say anything, this drill is going to go into your fucking head.
The TikTok is listening to you. The moment you say 377A, there's a phone call.
Or I try to express an opinion on it.
Yes.
But yeah, essentially, it is that because there is the risk that 377A might be challenged in court in future and could have all these repercussions on the other policies, let's kind of make that not possible and house it within the parliament so that it's decided by parliament and its members.
That's right.
And then also because they said that the traditional definition or the status quo definition of marriage at this point shaped a lot of the policies for housing and education
school,
and all that.
Media,
Yeah, so the point is that if something changes, all that is going to be changed.
Yeah, correct.
And I mean, like, just watching the Shanmugam interview, like, just before I go into my thoughts, the interview itself, Shanmugam, like, I really appreciate his thought process. Like, he'll talk about something and he'll be like, summarize this one, there are 2 points. So I can imagine every conversation, like, you go out with him for lunch, he'll be like, how was lunch? He's like, I really like the lunch for 2 reasons. The rice was cooked to perfection and the meat was very tender. Yeah. It's always like got this big stuff and then summarize. And then for
isn't that a method that people use to be more interesting in conversation?
Is it?
It's like I mean, it's a way of clickbaiting.
Fuck,
think about it. You think about it, you see what is so meta. Even me telling you think about it, that makes you stop and listen to what I'm going to say exactly, right? So it's like, Harish, I got 2 things. There are 2 reasons why this method of talking to people really draws them in. 1 is because you just have to stop and listen to me. 2 is that I have a second thing to back up my first point. And I see now you just stood there and listened to me talk for about 30 seconds, and I'm not saying anything of substance,
Yeah, so Terence,
right.
I think you're confusing attention and courtesy as with someone thinking you're interesting. I was just trying to be polite because I know if you have 2 points, you're on your second point, chances are I don't have to listen to the bullshit anymore. So I don't say anything.
Yeah, you're the interrupting type, the interrupter, right?
Hey, fuck you.
I haven't even finished my statement. I was going to say, you're the interrupter in the room, that kind of.
That was baiting to the max. Hey, I was going to talk about the Edwin Tong and Lawrence Wong interview until you interrupted me, okay? So let me just get back on that.
Okay.
There was something about the way Edwin Tong was sitting or his eye line. It looked like he was reading or something. I don't know. I can't imagine him reading or something, but I don't know, just watching the video, like the CNA team, if you're filming or something, it just makes me think like, oh shit. He looks at the interviewer, because there were 2, right? He looks at the one who asked the question who is on his left, so there's no one on further left. And then his eye still goes further left. So it just makes me feel like, okay, is he reading or something? But that's a side thing.
No, I mean, but sorry. Now, are you done with the point already?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
You may proceed.
There was one thing that I noticed about the Shanmugam interview that wouldn't say annoyed lah, but just made me feel like, hey, this is not a way to conduct an interview when you're talking about such a serious topic lah. I felt the interviewers were way too smiley lah, way too smiley during the interview.
Oh, the
You compared to
interviewers.
the interviewers. You compared to the CNA one where it was it's quite serious, sit down, and you know, like they even allowed Lawrence Wong and, like you said, Edwin Tong to look off into the distance when they're answering so they can think, or maybe, I don't know, look at prompters or something like that lah. But the Shanmugam one felt like they even showed in the video, you see him walk in and he's smiling and shaking hands with the reporters. Then when the reporters were asking him certain tough questions, they were saying it with such a huge white grin on the face, like almost like, oh, what do you as a big shot think about this interesting piece of news? I just want to hear your opinion, and I'm not going to challenge it as a journalist at all, you know? When actually they did themselves a disservice, because I thought the questions were not bad. There was pretty, you know, questions that he needed to make sure that he finessed and answered properly. But the way they just said it with such a big smile, it just felt like it was more like a collaboration rather than like a interview, you know, like answer your, like let me question your position, you know?
No, actually, that's true, because there was one question they even asked Shanmugam, you know, being the face of this, you're almost like the face of this. What are your thoughts? Like, what the fuck? Face of what? Like, face of the discussion leading the repealing of 377A. It just felt like, now that you say it, it did feel very different compared to the tone that the CNA interviewers took, because the CNA interviewers also asked some tough questions, but it felt like there was more weight. And I think you could even see, like, Lawrence Wong, I don't know, like he was not as smiley, because
and he used very strong language at certain points.
Very strong language. So straight times.
That's why to me it's like I think they got to know what they're doing lah. If you're the Straits Times and this is about 377A, it's got to be a serious sit down interview lah. Whereas if it's you and me, like a podcast, and someone comes in, I mean, we're all about comedy and you know, asking stupid questions, right? So it'll be a very different style of asking a question. But I just felt like, they just sort of shot their own credibility. I mean, shot themselves in the foot in terms of credibility by the way they are presenting the questions.
Yeah, that is true. That is true, Straits Times.
That is true. Yeah,
that is true. But okay,
keep the smiles off the off your faces.
Keep the smiles to the news that you're reporting on the latest bubble tea shop. Okay.
Only on Yalla But where ministers can smile and talk at the same time.
But okay, so we have given the context, our thoughts on the interview. But what are your takeaways from it?
So I think especially the Lawrence Wong one. The one thing I think that really stood out to me was that he literally said that, like, you know, the policies on marriage, I mean, the definition of marriage and the policies regarding marriage will not change under my watch. Yeah. You know, under this PM's watch and under my watch as the PM, and if the PAP wins the next election and everything. So, I mean, just taking that statement, taking it on its face value and projecting the future, you're talking about probably... He's trying to say that nothing will change for the next 15 to 20 years regarding this policy.
Assuming he gets 2 terms or something.
Assuming he wins the election, and assuming he at least spends the next 10 years as PM, right? So it's quite a statement to project the future. And that's why I think even when the announcement was made on a Sunday about repealing 377A, I had some friends who were very unhappy that this was this definition of marriage thing was tabled in parallel with the repeal of 377A . So it just immediately just kills off, like, okay, this is not in the works at all for discussion about anything like that .
I would say watching it, I appreciated the info and the context about, okay, what could be the repercussions if 377A is challenged in court. There are a lot of social policies, economic policies, housing policies. I don't know whether economic, but policies that are based on what the current definition of a marriage is . But then listening to it, it did feel like, oh shit. It felt like, okay, they had to do this. But it was maybe less about the community, but just more about having to be in control with what happens. And as a government, that is their role. But it wasn't the most encouraging, in the sense that there was a lot of repeated mentions that okay, what like the definition of a family, it's based on the family unit, So then it just comes to
Mm,
the same thing, like okay, the family unit right now is defined a certain way. It felt like there was no room for that to evolve in the short term, lah.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
when Shanmugam was giving the context of like, okay, if it is challenge record and there will all be these repercussions, yeah, I get it. But then it just feels like they are what was done now was done so that to avoid any, it's more like a de-risking measure. It's a
Correct,
de-risking
correct.
measure as opposed to really trying to address the issue, lah. So I don't
Mm,
know, man. I mean, I'm not part of the LGBT community, but listening to it, I feel a little more like, okay, this is what it is today
mm,
as opposed to Monday, lah.
mm. But actually, I did. That's why I felt like the Shanmugam interview was quite interesting for me, in the
Mm,
sense that we know Shanmugam, he knows his things about the law, right? He
mm,
has all the ducks lined up. He knows exactly how to use the law and what to say about the law to also buttress and to bolster an argument. But in the
mm,
middle of the interview, he says a statement that really is quite interesting. He says that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but generally this is it. He says that, yeah, the government has to make all these difficult decisions. We need to balance social cohesion in Singapore. And, people in the LGBTQ community are our friends, families, neighbors, colleagues, workers. And it's only right that we do not criminalize their sexual orientation behavior, and we remove the pain that they experience. We take away the pain that they experience from this law being around. So it's quite clear to me that I mean, that is, if you want to say as humane a statement as any minister has made about the whole thing now,
mm,
that is probably it, right? Is that,
mm,
that you're empathizing that people feel pain because of 377A, and that's why it has to be removed. But can you imagine if that was the crux of the entire argument of repealing 377A?
mm.
Can you imagine if they don't talk about this whole constitutional law thing and all that, and just say that, oh, it's because as Singaporeans, we need to empathize with each other, and there's one community feeling pain, and we need to remove that pain from them.
Oh,
You
so you're
know,
saying like from a comms perspective, that could have
mm,
been given more weight if it's true, lah, right?
no, I'm
Yeah.
saying it could have given more weight, but it would not fly. I think it wouldn't be as, because it's not as, it's trying to appeal to the heart and not to the logic side
Mm,
of things as
mm,
much.
mm,
So
mm,
if that was the crux of why they were doing this, saying that, oh, social mores have changed, and this is, and we need to care for minorities, all that, I don't think it would have been as strong an argument to get everybody on the same page. Whereas now, when you add in that the idea of, there's a legal wrangling over this issue, and it's very complex and everything, then it feels like, oh, okay, there's a logical reason why we need to do this, lah. And that makes it a much I feel like it makes it a much I mean, it's still a bitter pill, but it's still a pill that can be swallowed by people in general, lah, when they try and see the logical side of it. But it is,
mm.
but granted, given that we were confused about it and we had misconceptions about it, it's not an easy perspective to put forth, lah, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there was no way that PM Lee could have gone into that sort of detail during the NDR,
Yeah, NDR.
formerly known as National Day Rally, now
Yeah,
NDR. So I'm sure this kind of stuff, they could see it. Like, there would need to be a follow-up interview and all. But
yeah,
going back to
yeah.
what you say, what you're saying is that the approach they took, which is grounded in more logic. Because, okay,
Logic, law,
if you
legal, yeah.
watch the video with an open mind, I mean, you can see the logic. You
Mm,
can understand the context. You can disagree
mm,
with it, but you can't deny that, okay, there is a thought process behind it, and
mm,
there are
mm,
reasons why they took that approach, lah.
mm.
And what you're saying is that, yeah, that one ultimately still works better than something that is more emotional, lah.
Yeah, because I think I've said it before, where this issue will take some
Mm,
bold leadership that is willing to take a political hit, lah. But how you sell that bitter pill to people is the proof of in the pudding, right? That's the reason that you're paid money as a minister and everything, like how you sell it. And I think they've decided to go full on the, there's a legal conundrum going on here, and we need to amend, make sure that this conundrum doesn't come to the forefront and everything, lah. So that's because technically, like the Straits Times, like I said, the Straits Times interviews, they ask good questions. That good questions. You already have discussed this before, so it's not like this is something new. So why now and not later or anything like that, lah? And I think they just make the point that just given what has been happening, and the potential that it could get struck down in the future, we need to act now, lah. Yeah.
That is true.
And but I mean, just coinciding with the fact that we are switching prime ministers, we are, Lawrence Wong needs to start on a fresh slate and everything, lah, right? So this might be the window of opportunity that they thought, okay, it has to happen now, lah.
But have you seen any reactions from people in the community? From the
LGBTQ community?
Yeah, LGBTQ community.
I mean, I have heard a couple of a bit quite distressed, lah. That now our status as second-class citizens is confirmed. It's confirmed. Like I said, like Lawrence Wong, as long as Lawrence Wong remains as PM, it's not going to happen under his watch. But I think the last podcast you mentioned, so there's still the idea of civil unions that is not mentioned, right? They mentioned they will enshrine marriage, fine. But how about civil unions? Because I did get a very basic question that made me sit back and think a little bit. I was like, okay, so what if a gay couple gets married outside of Singapore and then comes back to Singapore? What happens? Is their marriage even recognized for whatever reasons? And I mean, I thought about it at first. I was like, oh yeah, actually that's such a complex, deep question. I didn't think about it. I'm thinking, no, but a lot of people get married. They are married overseas and then come to Singapore. And then, they don't become single just because they're in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Like when I'm talking about heterosexual couples, so their marriage is recognized because they got married in a place where it is, it's recognized. However, you get married, whether you got married in Vegas or you got married in, in some far-flung part of the world or whatnot. But the point is that it's still recognized, and the at least the basic things, right? Like if your will or if let's say you got a very serious illness in the hospital and only one person can come visit you, it has to be someone in your direct family, right? And then would your spouse or partner be that person, right? All these things. I think these basic things can be addressed as part of a civil union, right? If a civil union concept is implemented in Singapore.
The CNN interviewer did ask Lawrence Wong about the possibility of a civil partnership, civil union, and I believe his response was like they have no intention of changing the definition of marriage at this point, At this point,
but that's marriage, That's marriage,
Yeah.
So civil union is not a marriage, right? Technically,
true. But I think that the argument can go both ways. Like it all depends on the definition of marriage, and correct. That's where it feels like okay. Then now maybe previously it feels like, okay, if you take it to court, there's a chance. But then now,
no chance.
I mean, maybe it has inspired a bunch of individuals to be like, okay, this can only be settled in Parliament. I'm going to start my path to become an MP now. And in 10 years' time, I'm going to make the change. And that would be fucking great if it inspires
not just start a path, start a party already. Because that's literally what the challenge that Shamon said. Okay, so if you want to change this, go into politics, fight for election, win the votes, and then form a government.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally what he I'm paraphrasing what he said, but yeah, that's the challenge he laid down to anyone who wants to challenge it.
Yeah, he's throwing down the
gauntlet.
The gauntlet, yeah. But I mean, I was glad that those two interviews happened because it felt like it wasn't something that they announced and then boom, it's set in stone. And even at this point, there is no confirmation when it will be repealed. There is no date on when it will be brought up in Parliament. So a lot of things in the air, but the fact that they did that and the fact that the conversation is still going on to the point that we needed to do a follow-up podcast, I think it's good. I think it's good.
I mean, the interesting thing also is that Lawrence Wong was at the Google event. Like we mentioned he was giving a speech at a Google event. I was just thinking, wow, literally on Monday, he probably had to do interview about 377A. And next morning, and here he is, celebrating Google's birthday and everything. I'm wondering how shacked he is or what.
Maybe that's why they put us in a separate room also. Because, we'd be like, sir, Sir,
So can I
sir,
ask you about
can I,
377A?
sir, question, sir. Sir, question.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, these people
Yeah.
need to make them watch a live stream. Need to make them watch a live
I
stream.
think they probably went through the guest list and then, who are the potential rebel rousers in this group? One banana safe. Okay, one banana goes to the main room. Ministry funny, yalla, but yeah, live stream.
Yeah, live stream.
Exactly.
correct. But
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of it, like what is your sentiment now, or like what are you taking away from this whole past few days? Because who knows? Friday we might need to do
Yeah.
another podcast to follow up because there's some monumental update
Who
again.
knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I think the interviews have shed a bit of light on, to me at least, Shanmugam's one about how even their own personal views about some of these things also. No, I'm not absolving Shanmugam, saying he's actually he's a damn good guy and he has empathy for people, and I'm not saying that, but it's just clear to me that it's a very calculated political move that they're doing now lah. Based on the timing, based on how they have been arguing it, pushing it along, and basically this barrage of appearances and media interviews and all, and the assurances that Lawrence Wong is giving, it's quite clear to me that they see the window of opportunity now, and they are doing what is probably politically the most calculated move they can do lah. So I don't get any sense that these are evil people who just want to, who can't empathize with minorities or anything like that lah. Yeah, so that's the sense I get, and like I keep mentioning, the not say loophole lah, but the potential of civil unions and all that being something in the future, like we mentioned Tim Cook, being the most prominent talent, corporate talent and all that is from the LGBTQ community. We want to attract more talent and make them feel welcome in Singapore lah, right? So what is the best approach for that lah? Yeah, everyone has to think about that lah.
Yeah. I think for me it is just looking at everything else that was bubbling up. One thing, I mean, we've been speaking about the minister's responses, but a lot of religious organizations have also put out responses. I know one non-profit group has started a survey to ask parents, which is what among a list of 8 are their top concerns about their kids growing up in a society where 377A is repealed, which is just it's very divisive lah. And as opposed to the statement put out by Muiz, I think Muiz put out a very thoughtful statement.
Very, very, very almost introspective at points as well. Right?
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Muiz, man, because they're comms person. Shout out to you because they did a very good job balancing what the meaning of a religion or Islam is, how your beliefs and your faith still needs to be balanced with compassion and empathy for other individuals lah. And that you can find a compromise, and you should still never discriminate, never harm people just because of their own beliefs or things that they individually believe in. So it's quite a long statement. We'll put a link in the show notes, but I had some friends who I know not Muslim and have certain thoughts about 377A, but even like they said, this was a very good statement. You can be of any religion, you can be any belief. You read it, you're like, okay, this. I look at it, I'm like, okay, this is cool lah. This is a step forward lah.
Yeah. And a lot I got, what I got from it was they also saying that rather than really fighting about it in the public sphere and all, the best way to argue your point also is to live the values of the religion lah, right? Live the positive values of the religion and show that to the world lah, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I said introspective in the sense that it makes people like, okay, don't think about yourself solely in the through the lens of religion. Think about yourself as an individual in the lens of that you live in a wider community, a wider society where where everyone values peace and harmony as well, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was a pretty well worded statement that they put out, lah. Yeah.
I mean, just to give an example of some of the things they said, like under the section on marriage and sexuality, they start off, Islam emphasizes the building of families through marriage between male and female as the basic foundation of society. And then they go on to talk about how they see that as the unit of marriage. But in the last paragraph, 4 paragraphs later, in that section, they say, differences in worldviews and values are to be expected. In Islam, we are taught not to judge or condemn individuals, even though they had committed clearly harmful or wrong actions. Our role is to merely offer advice and wise counsel based on the teachings of our faith. So, I mean, of course, you can argue, oh, clearly harmful and wrong actions, what are they referring to? But the fact that they could use these sort of statements, which in and of itself, you can imagine it going one way, balancing it with the other thoughts, I thought, it's just a worthwhile read. I still disagree with some stuff they say, but that is the point. You can have disagreements, but be respectful. And then on the minister policy side, I think it still feels like, okay, while this thing has been done, and while we are still a long way from having the definition of marriage evolve, it feels like the fact that I think I appreciate the context that was given or the way they tried to explain it as opposed to just a top-down hammer approach. And it feels like, okay, everything that's been done over the past few years with Pink Dot and all the activism has resulted in something. And it is just, there's more to be done. And where we can support or argue or debate, we will try.
Yeah, that's right.
We will try.
It's that's why I mean, this won't be the last time we discuss this issue. So I'm pretty.
And I mean, it's such a contentious issue that I have I can't even count the number of tabs I have open. My computer is slowing down because of the number of tabs I have open.
Yeah, but isn't that every day for you?
No. Today is exceptional. Today is a high tab day.
Oh my
Today is
God,
a high tab day, man. High tab day.
Yeah, I can't imagine because Harish is one of those guys where you open the screen, the tab is basically the individual width. It's the width of your little finger. Each tab is the width of your little finger.
You can squeeze in 2 tabs there, bro. Squeeze in 2 tabs.
Yeah, kids do not do this at home. It's very unproductive.
Hey, don't give me the shit. My tabs are all very well organized. I know exactly where what is. And if you can manage it, I highly recommend it. If you can't, then okay lah.
Yeah.
You can't manage the tabs.
Yeah, your tabs are like the TikTok of tabbing at it. Basically, a lot of stimulation, a lot of different things.
Hey, no.
Just keep bombarding you. Which brings us to
it's organized info. Hey, don't just segue without letting me squeeze in something. It's just organizing info in a systematic way.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, okay. Now you carry on.
Speaking of in information in a systematic way. I think our next story is about one of the social media giants also using info that they can glean from you in a very systematic but secretive fashion, right?
Yeah.
So what is this? Who is this social media giant and what has been revealed recently?
So it is TikTok, TikTok. There's been a lot of more and more attention placed on the findings of a software researcher who published a report. Basically, he kind of tested a bunch of social media apps and found that the only one who does this is TikTok. And what he's referring to is that, when you click a link in a social media app, it might not open up your browser of choice like Chrome, Safari, or Firefox.
It doesn't leave the app to your browser app now, right?
Yeah, it doesn't leave your browser app, that social media app into the browser app, and it just opens a window where you go to the website. So what he found is that TikTok injects a bunch of lines of code that gives them the ability to track what you do on these external websites, including what you fucking type.
Yeah, so your credit card details also possible.
Yeah, what you type, I think even if you don't enter it, is following your keystrokes. So you read it, you're like, oh shit. And then I think what TikTok said when pressured was that it's there, but they don't use it, which is the worst fucking answer you can give. And of the 7 apps, so Kraus, this guy, he's Felix Kraus, his name. And he's tested 7 apps, which is TikTok, Facebook, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Snapchat, Amazon, and Robinhood. On iPhone. He didn't test the Android. But TikTok,
I think TikTok specifically said that the JavaScript code in question is used only for debugging, troubleshooting, and performance monitoring of that experience. That means, it's just they say it's meant to optimize the user experience.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just for keystrokes. But TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook both track taps on websites, and they also monitor when people highlight text on websites. So his whole point is that these sort of extra lines of code, right, it's not a mistake. It is a conscious thing, So then it becomes like, oh shit. I mean, okay, I think everybody knows or has heard rumors that TikTok tracks everything. They understand you. They rewire your brain and shit. But the thread is always like a bit of a distance away, But reading this, was like, oh shit. And then got like in parallel with how TikTok fucking consumes me, man. The moment I open up TikTok, right, I know if I don't actively force myself away from it, like I just lose minutes. I just lose minutes of time.
It's basically like the moment you open it, it just bombs you with content already. It's like almost like hypnosis like that. It just draws you in. Whereas other apps, you kind of still open it and then there's sort of like homepage and then there's sort of like,
notification.
Then you start your journey.
Shit. Yeah.
You start your engine and then, I'm going to go down this deep hole, this deep spiral of Instagram thirst traps and everything.
Yeah.
But TikTok doesn't do that. It just straight away boom, here's something for you to watch now, now.
Like Facebook still shows you like 5 years ago you did this before you became an asshole, right?
Yeah.
And they show pictures or shit like that with music. But TikTok, first of all, is an ad, and then you go up and it's just like drug hit after drug hit after drug hit.
Yeah, but so I mean, I pointed out because it really is like almost like it's like how you see a lot of parents do it with their children now. You want them to sit down and eat their lunch. The first thing you do is just stuff an iPhone or iPad in their face. And then the kid just gets hypnotized already. And then they slowly, every time they bring the spoon to their mouths, the kids just eat and eat and eat.
Is that what
that's what I
think
TikTok is doing to us as adults and social media users.
Yeah. Because then Terrence, how if I got 2 more minutes till my bus comes? What to do? I got not enough time to listen to a podcast, to read an article, to watch a video. I don't want to go on Twitter. So what else to do, Terrence?
I mean, we are on TikTok, right? We use TikTok. So like you, I very consciously, the moment TikTok opens, I quickly switch to my own profile page, our own profile page, and then just look at our page there first. And then sort of just gather myself before I decide, okay, do I really want to engage with
you can't even
TikTok
start on your own profile. You can't even start.
Exactly,
you have to actively fucking click on your
own. Get away.
Profile.
Yeah, it's almost like you enter and then you enter a house and you have to run away from, all the children in the living room and
all
everything.
the drugs, all the drugs.
First.
All the drugs.
Exactly.
People doing drugs in your hall.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's I mean, I guess that's their way of really like drawing you in. But this thing about the keystrokes, I think is it's interesting because it kind of like, I think my one Shiok Things was the Land of the Giants podcast where if anything that I'm gleaning from the podcast, when you really do a deep dive into how every big tech company was founded, one thing you realize is that even up to today, these companies still do to some extent reflect the ethos of the original founders of the companies, And TikTok is probably the latest biggest big tech company, right? ByteDance and everything. And what is the ethos? And I think no one has done that deep dive yet into what is the ethos of the founders of the company and how do their personal views and ethos about a lot of these issues of privacy, surveillance, all that. How does that lead to the current experience you have on their platform? So it like what you said, I do think it's quite troubling because these things don't happen by accident. These lines of code being in there don't happen by accident. It's put there for a reason. It's put there, and if they can use it without being found out, they probably will. And then now that people are calling it out, it's probably a good time to think about how your data is being tracked and used in TikTok.
But you think people how many people do you think give a shit?
How many people give a shit?
Like, would actually,
I mean,
Like, as we are talking about this, how many
Yeah.
people you think have switched off and
Switch to
thinking
TikTok
about
already.
switch to
No, they really
TikTok?
left the app. They really left the
They're
app
like,
and then looking at
fuck
TikTok.
lah. It's two people
Yeah.
complaining about social media apps again and how they get all your data. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go choose what I'm gonna eat for lunch.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Right.
just credit card details. That's kind of scary, right? Like the fact that if you type in your credit card details, it's being recorded already lah. Regardless of what they say that they safeguard or that, the fact that it's being recorded, it's kind of scary. Yeah.
Yeah, but then like I guess it's just the taint on big tech lah. Because or if you think about other apps that you use, they probably track a whole bunch of shit also. But the difference here is, like when you go to websites that could be even protected, could vow to not track anything. TikTok might track it lah. TikTok might track
Yeah,
it.
they might track it. Yeah. And the one damning thing is that I think the researcher also, the guy also said that TikTok doesn't give you an option to open it up in another browser. It's the only social media app that doesn't give you the option to open it up in your default browser on your phone lah. So it's almost like they don't want you to leave lah. They want you to stay in their ecosystem such that they can keep tracking you. Yeah. So I mean that's hopefully that can so they can amend that, right, if they really want to, if they really care about the concerns of users. They can amend that and allow users to choose to go out of the app into the into their own default browser.
Yeah. I think
So
definitely
I would say, I mean, of course, social media, who cares? They're all the same, they're all evil. But there's little incremental steps that everyone, they can and they should take if they really care about what you as a user thinks. And likewise, there's incremental steps you can take to protect yourself. Is don't open click on links in TikTok if you can, as much as possible.
Yeah. So then, I mean, then it also affects people like us, right? Because we are like, click on the link in the show notes. TikTok, we don't put links in the captions, right? It is.
Because it's all mostly short content. So I think,
short content.
I mean, I think our philosophy is always that if you see an interesting clip of us on TikTok, come and check us out on Spotify, and come check us out on YouTube and other places where we really post the full content.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think the thing is just, if you are on the fence whether you care or not, just check out the article. I think some of them might be behind a paywall, but we'll also put a link to his report that he published that has been covered by a lot of different other news outlets.
But will this affect your consumption of TikTok?
No. No, I think it would kind of make me a bit more wary. But to be honest, I think if I were to stop TikTok, it will be for other reasons.
No more thirst traps.
TikTok, no more thirst traps, like fucking thirst traps.
8 a.m. in the 8 a.m. TikTok check-in when you're on the toilet seat and all that. That has to go, right?
No, then like there's so much food and dog stuff also, because TikTok dogs on TikTok are cute.
Oh yeah.
And now many dogs, so many dog videos.
Yeah. And I mean there are a lot. I mean, even at the Google event we met a lot of TikTok creators, content creators, right?
Yeah.
And they're just people who are very excited by the possibilities of creating for large audiences. And one thing that they bring up is how easy it is to create content on TikTok, right, compared to other platforms as well. So it's not all doom and gloom and evil. There are real people trying to, create good content on TikTok for the world. I mean, good meaning good is all relative as well, right? What is good? Different types of content for different people. And on TikTok, that's apparently that kind of communities are, like let's say you are very big on ASMR, that kind of thing. Those communities really thrive on TikTok as well. Yeah.
So maybe it's just warrants you to just take note, just educate yourself, be a bit more wary, and I mean, I'll probably jump on TikTok today.
Yeah, don't put your credit card details when you're click through a link on TikTok, right? Maybe that kind of thing. Just be careful.
Yeah.
But yes.
Cool.
Cool. What's your one Shiok comment in the recent days?
Wait, let me pull it up. Do you have any?
I think the one Shiok comment is of our previous podcast.
Mm.
I think because it was about 377A and all. So there's a comment by SG Richa, where he basically says that maybe he calls out the Calvin Cheng's claim that Asian societies have traditionally been more tolerant of alternative lifestyles or differing sexual orientations and everything lah. Because I think that's something we brought up as how or at least Calvin Cheng brought it up as how Singapore has shed itself of its colonial era hangover lah, right? But as Jiresha is saying, putting out there that he finds this to be a false claim, considering that half of Asia is in the Middle East with Islamic values that are also anti-LGBTQ and pro-nuclear family, and he also brings out examples of how actually is secularism and liberalism was originated in the West lah. So he's saying that there are still elements that are that we are aping the West in that way lah. So I think I disagree on certain points, but I think it's a interesting comment that SG Rich has put forth, and I would love to hear what people think of this as well lah.
Cool. My one Shiok comment actually just came in 20 minutes ago. It's by Derek FCW, which kind of sets the context to why I'm glad we did this follow-up podcast, because he did point out that the clarification that we made today, that the definition of marriage is not going to be enshrined in the Constitution. It is the protection of that definition that from being challenged constitutionally in the court that is the change lah. So I mean, if we didn't do this podcast, I would still appreciate people kind of pointing out certain things that we got wrong, because we are more than willing to admit when we get things wrong. And I also want to say that he said that our attempts to explain the concept simply was it was bold, and he appreciated it. When I gave a simple definition, you say, hey, no, that's damn complicated. Let me give my simple definition. Then yours became fucking complicated also.
Yeah.
So at least
I think at that point, that was the point I realized, oh fuck, this is complicated. Everyone who tries to simplify ends up like, oh fuck, it's complicated.
But at least one person found it bold and appreciated it. So cheers to that, man.
Cheers, yes.
Cool. All right.
But I mean, it's cool. It's cool because I think it takes us a bit of time to read through and really understand the issue as well, to try and explain it simply to people.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, then what about your one Shiok thing, man?
I mean, you want to go first?
I can.
Just pulling up mine,
I recently kind of rewatched a video I saw years ago, back in it first came out 2010, when I was talking to my fiance recently about I don't know, protest or activism or leadership or something. And I mean, it kind of fits the context of the topic of 377A and all that, the movement against for repealing it that was started. It is called How to Start a Movement by Derek Sivers. I'm sure you have seen this video also. It's like a 3-minute video where he gives a talk at TED. It's a 3-minute video, and he just uses a viral at that point video of this one guy dancing at a festival and causing everybody to start dancing the same way, to explain the importance of the first follower. Because everyone talks about the leader, everyone talks about the leader, compliments the leader, but he points out that if anyone has a crazy idea, it is more or less crazy until there is someone who agrees with that idea and decides to follow it. Then it becomes the seed of a movement. And it's a damn entertaining, damn insightful video, very short video, but I mean, that's why it's almost 10 million views on YouTube, on TED itself. Have you seen that video?
I don't remember, but I've watched a lot of
Derek Sivers
videos.
Oh, lots of that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so
I might have,
when I watched it again recently, I was like, oh shit, this still holds true, man.
Yeah. Cool. My one Shiok thing, I can't remember if I brought it up before. I don't think so, but it's a non-fiction graphic novel that I bought some time ago. But it's called Mouse, Maus, and it was actually a serialized graphic novel that ran from 1980 to 1991, and in 1992 it actually won a Pulitzer Prize lah. But basically it's by the American cartoonist Art Spiegelman, which was it's kind of like a autobiography or a telling from his perspective of his father's experience during World War II and the Holocaust. And it depicts Jewish people in the book, like, it depicts Jewish people as mice, and like the Polish people as pigs, and then the Nazis as cats and everything. So actually, it's actually quite a deep and quite a dark exploration of the Holocaust and the survivors' experience of the Holocaust. But with animal characters and all. So the reason I actually bought the book a few months ago, and I've only just really gotten into reading it, but it's pretty good lah. Is that in early 2022, the somewhere in the East Tennessee in the US, where it was actually voted to be the board of trustees for the schools in East Tennessee voted unanimously to remove mouse from the school curriculum over concerns that it had profanity, violence, and nudity lah. And there was a huge backlash because people are like, why is this book being targeted for basically being a very insightful exploration of what the Holocaust experience for a lot of Jewish people during World War II lah. And so it was covered by this strange decision by the school board in East Tennessee was covered by media, and it led to a backlash that pushed the book to #1 overall on Amazon in January 2022 lah. So basically, people were reacting and saying that and disagreeing with the removal of the book from the school curriculum, and there was the Streisand effect, and everyone just rushed to buy the book lah. And so I contributed to that rush as well, and I bought the book, and yeah, I'm just getting into it. And I think it's a pretty interesting book.
So it's a graphic novel.
Graphic novel. So yeah lah. It's it's thick like a book, but it's a graphic novel lah, and deals with very very heavy issues about Holocaust and everything. It's not light reading. It's not light reading. It's definitely for serious discussion and all. But it's a graphic novel. Yeah,
This is your bedtime reading.
Actually, it is. Yeah, it is my bedtime reading. It's what I read before I go to bed. Yeah.
I mean, the cover looks damn cool.
Yeah. So
that
mouse,
is
M-A-U-S.
cool. Mouse.
If you like to read about if you like graphic novels that deal with very serious issues like Watchmen and all that, I'm sure Mouse would be up there as well.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. This looks dark, man, but cool.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a nice long podcast. And I guess we'll talk to y'all soon.
Peace.